2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
You're saying here that you think, in some ways, this is out of the normal, that trying a former president for
all the crafts have meant in your life here, Tom?
So that picture pretty much sums it up, and I think there's so many experiences.
We're going to be on at 9:31. I'm sorry, I have a little bit. We're going to be on at. Right, so we'll be back in a moment. Can I write comments here? I can't write in the comments. Alright, that's okay. Alright. We'll be back in a moment, 9:31 Eastern time, so just stand by. Oh, sorry, stand by. talking about the issues and the broken people of the day. This podcast has been rated by the podcasting board as P14 for the audience of the faint of the heart that can't take a joke. It's time for the Clickford and the Weekly Stew, brought to you by From Techiegraphs, techiegraphs.clickford.net. Alrighty, welcome to this episode of the Weekly Zoo. We stream live Thursday mornings at 9:30 Eastern Time on DN1 New Hampshire, DN1 Copenhagen, and DN1 Miniland, as well as our own platform. And then we do the 11 Relationships Hour at 10. We're the only morning show that is on for the morning, for the last half hour of the morning day part. If you get your news from Jack Off Heath, he's technically not the morning. He's on, was it 10 to noon? So he's on midday. He should rename his show. And I don't know if Kelly has been on his show lately, but again, just being, the morning zoo. It's like the morning zoo. Think of the Weekly Zoo live on the very smidge of morning drive. All right. Again, this is a simulcast, so if you've seen the picture of me, it's really just a fly on the wall. We're not looking at a camera with a radio mic and thinking we're talking to a television audience, because if you're in the road stuck in traffic, you A, should not be looking at my ugly face, and B, I might be liable for traffic accidents. It's a whole idea, the theater of the mind. The camera with these simulcasts, we kind of, I take YouTube very literally. Its original tagline, broadcast yourself. I love to take the broadcast level. 99% of YouTube is people filming themselves. Like, fuck cinema. Oh, sorry, Dan, but you have to bleed me out within the first 2 minutes. Thank you to DN1 for sticking on with us, with our technical fails. Alright, we are not Felger and Maz, we're not Zoe and Meadle, we're not the Greg Hill Show, but however, what do you think about the Tom Brady Day yesterday, June 12th, 6 rings, and, player number 12 of the New England Patriots. Okay, his number got retired. He got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Kind of missed that headline because it's been so many Tom Brady stuff going on between the roast in La La Land, I think. It just is too much Tom Brady. And guess what? Game 3 of the Celtics in the finals was last night. And we all know that we New Englanders are a fan of not just at least one or more sports, but for most is 1 or 2, some are less than 3, very few less than 4, because if you count the New England Revolution, right, the soccer team, or football for those people who are outside the states. But for the U.S. football, the NFL, it's mostly the Patriots, Sox, and the Bruins. And the Celtics, somewhere in that order. And normally, you typically, if you are running a Boston sports team, you typically do not conflict. And while they did play on the 6-12 last fall, the release of the playoff schedule, I think, was, they were talking about that yesterday on the competition, but I would certainly, if I was Bob Kraft, why would you do it if you had a feeling that the Celtics would be in the finals? I don't know. Particularly, we don't think of football in June, but, the training starts in July. You could have done all of his rings, which was 7, right, or whatever. He could have done it then, or mix the numbers around. Because see, Bob Kraft is very like a fan, so he takes the superstition as a billionaire very seriously. So Yeah, but anyhow, we're not gonna show video clips because this might be content ID, but that was the other thing. You had to be there at 6:30 Eastern sharp. 6:30 Eastern time sharp, or else, well, if you wanted to go halfway through Providence, 'cause that's where Foxborough is, right? If you're a New England sports fan, I mean, apparently there was a lot of people that were there, but it wasn't talked about that much by the fans, particularly this week. There's a lot of disappointment of just putting us against the Celtics, and even if the Celtics lost, I don't think people would want to watch this loser. Let's play a few cuts that I think I can play.
Right, remember that? Walking drunk on active train tracks under Route 1 to stumble in and watch them, to then be a part of this greatness. It's so fantastic. I just want to thank the Kraft family, all the history of the Patriots, and everybody for this moment. We have a fantastic evening. Look at all of these people that showed up to honor Tom. Absolutely incredible.
You're not even cutting.
All right, I'm going to be back up here a little bit later.
And I can't really tell.
And it's my honor right now to introduce our next guest. This guy's an absolute legend in broadcasting. Started out at ESPN, has broadcasted everything from NFL football, NBA basketball, NHL, tennis, golf. Took over for Al Michaels, an absolute legend. Please welcome the one and only Mike Tirico, everybody. Come on. Nice warm round of applause.
Yeah, Mike Tirico. Yep. So
Thank you, Bill. Good evening, everyone. How we doing?
How much did they pay Mike Tirico?
I gotta tell you, I don't
this?
care which of the 32 franchises is your favorite if you're watching around the country. This is unbelievable. What a night. What a testimony to what sports means to New England and what Tom Brady means to this area.
And then they do this, they go to San Francisco or San Mateo, I'm sorry, to get a little pup piece with the family, which many
honestly, we love Boston. We were
documentary.
so excited to get to Boston, and people were really so wonderful, you know, and those memories, you know, will never ever fade from our minds and our hearts. When I went through my cancer, I can't tell you the most. I got so many wonderful cards and letters, and people made me shawls and blankets, you know, all from the New England area, and it was just such a wonderful, I think, a wonderful memory for us, those 20 years. I mean, it was ups and downs, but more ups than so many wonderful memories. And we tried.
And Tom talks about this on the. We're gonna just kind of, because I don't want to get content ID. It was streamed on Patriots.com and Channel 4 WBC TV is supposed to be airing this tomorrow night. Supposedly, they had to bleep. I'm assuming they're gonna have to bleep things out because things were said that were not supposed, that wouldn't air on broadcast local TV. But I just want to get to this because Brady. I'm playing cuts that are probably not going to be played out much by the media because it's under focus. That's kind of the intent of the fair use, because it's fair use of this footage, because it's kind of unusual for Tom Brady to say this stuff. Cut it. This is where he's going on the big stage on the field with Tirico. I got to go to a break
Well, we just heard from your family, and we just heard from your other family here. Pretty sweet, isn't it?
I think it's
This is really scripted.
so difficult. And I've got a speech I'll talk about later, but it's so difficult to put into words what this amazing night means to me and our entire family. And where we started on Portola Drive, as my mom said, our hat size never got too big, and I feel like we're still the family that was always trying to love and support each other, and I think we're adopted New Englanders.
really,
And I have
I'm
my little
skeptical
babies out
on
here that
this.
aren't such babies anymore, that were born here on Beacon Street. And
Yeah, he's seeing all the
we
streets
got
he
off the
grew up
plane
on.
yesterday, and I was driving down the Mass Pike and just looking and very nostalgic about what this 2 decades is meant to me, and
I
it's meant to my
laughed
family,
at
and it's
this,
meant
like,
to the
this is
people
too
that
good
I've
to
came
be
in
true.
touch with over a long period of time. A lot of them in this stadium, a lot of them in the different places where I lived in Franklin, I lived in Quincy, I lived in Com Ave,
Check
lived on
all
Beacon
the
Street.
boxes of the
I lived in
nicknames.
Chestnut
He's
Hill.
reading off a cue card.
And I just want to say, you guys affected every part of my life, and I love
Why
you all,
did
and
he
I'm very
wait
grateful.
till this point? Oh, Tommy boy. Oh, until at this point, like, why didn't he do this? Like, my grandmother, unfortunately, week 2, she started to go downhill. Wouldn't it have been nice if he had did this, because it was streamed on Patriots.com on the second half, the halftime, on week 2. This would have been so awesome. My grandmother would have enjoyed this. Why did he wait another 9 months to... I'm gonna say he's kissing the ass of New England, the New England fans. It sounds a little fake. He's trying to make his way to Fox because he's gonna be calling the games on Fox in the fall. But I don't know what, because I'm right now up against other shows right now. But I wonder if Felger and Maz and Stone Beetle and Grush and Mego are gonna talk about this. I didn't listen to Greg Hill this morning, but I just think that key part right there here on the Weekly Zoo raises red flags. All right, I'm sorry, I have to go on a hard break. This is the Weekly Zoo. We'll be back in a moment. George Will coming up next. What was that? 9:46:30. Okay. Thank you for killing a commercial because I killed you a break. No problem. Coyote watches why can I not get into YouTube? Shit. Whatever. That's fine. And I'm in for the mini fake news guy here for the Kyotte watch. Kelly Ayotte is still humping for her, law enforcement. She's just a pick-me politician. She's also continuing to hump for getting over 100 veterans to support her, if I'm reading this correctly. Yes, she has more than 100 New Hampshire veterans as part of Veterans for Kelly, as if, first name basis. The other thing, too, she posted on the Conway Daily Sun, the freebie newspaper. I love the Conway Daily Sun. It's free because it's a heavily, it can be completely supported through advertising, but she went to the North Conway McDonald's to celebrate the grand reopening. I believe I was there in April. It looks like the one I've been to. But I'm assuming these grand openings are not really immediate, but I was there. It's so crazy. Kelly Ayotte follows me wherever I go, even if it's 2 or 3 months after the fact. It's just like, come on, Kelly. I remember when I went to Zeb's, that did I spell old cunt? Oh god, let me go in. Yeah, let's go in. I like going there too. Should I, this is a question, should I reach out to Kelly? Should I reach out to her because, to be a comms? That means I would have to leave the zoo, but this show kind of sucks anyways. That's why I was thinking about that. Let me know in the comments. If I should run for Kelly out, but yeah.
We've learned from Trump is that it's very difficult to have only one healthy party. When the Republican Party went off the rails, the Democratic Party followed suit very quickly. You have the Democrats now divided between their sympathy for Hamas, their echoing of the campus cancel culture and the wokeness and all that. Both parties are repulsive right now. And because, as I say, you can't have just one.
George Will, if you remember his days from being on with the late David Brinkley on the Sunday Talk Show, that's how far back I think he's a boomer. I'm assuming he's a boomer. He was on this podcast. Do I have the name off the top of my head here? It's the Dispatch Podcast. This guy is such an establishment Republican that even established conservatives would think he's so out of touch because he doesn't understand how MAGA really is. He talked about the prosecution against former President Trump with Alvin Bragg, making it be a political thing, but some of the other things he said in this I'm trying to make this quick because I ran late with Tom Brady. It was it came out of nowhere for me. I forgot about 6/12. For me personally, I should have known, but I felt it was important to share. Let's continue cutting to George, the old dude.
To bend are sturdy institutions, and I'm thinking particularly of the judiciary. It is amazing that Democrats and progressives, who on the one hand are saying we face an existential, God, I hate that word, an existential crisis of democracy in America, but we also should join in their attempt to delegitimize the Supreme Court and inferentially the appellate jury also, the appellate judiciary also. It is the courts that are going to be particularly important in stymieing any that Mr. Trump, if reelected, would try and engage in. Mr. Biden, his campaign after the jury came in yesterday in New York said, well, this is a great victory for the rule of law. That would be more important if Joe Biden had, A, transparently tried to violate constitutional law, ignoring the appropriations clause with $405 billion worth of student loan deferment. And when the Supreme Court said you can't do that, he gave a speech saying, the Supreme Court tried to block me, but I'm doing it anyway. And he has. He just keeps now doing the same serial lawlessness in smaller tranches. So mark me down as dyspeptic about the whole conversation right now.
Let me ask you, the financier Ray Dow.
And the other thing, too, is he doesn't believe there's going to be a civil war. This is ridiculous.
That would be the final discrediting of this whole enterprise. It will not happen, it seems to me. Yes, I think the rhetoric is overblown. I don't know when these people who talk this way have spent any time with normal Americans these days. Look, there are 333 million of us in this country. A handful of them are stark raving mad. A lot of them showed up at the Capitol on January 6th. There are these internet armies out there, but they're not real armies. Civil war. Look, I live in Washington, across the river from Robert E. Lee's house. The Army of Northern Virginia is what a civil war looks like. Thomas Jackson and those guys. Not these people with horns in their helmets wandering through the Capitol with Confederate flags. We've had an experience with actual civil war in this country, and it's complicated.
Oh my God. Yeah, large figures, and also things are so decentralized in some ways, centralized in others. He doesn't understand it. We've been dealing with an interwebs civil war with just owning. I mean, he is so out of touch. He's trying to deny the reality. Boy, George Will, you might want to seek retirement, because I think you're past your prime. If I can remember you when I was 4 years old on with the late David Brinkley, yeah, I feel like it's 1991. The world's changed significantly, and in the political world, even worse. We're going to a break here. Amanda is back for another installment in just 2 minutes. Oh my God, that is crazy. He is crazy. For him to make that kind of yeah, he's so past his prime career-wise. So past his prime. Alright, let's get Amanda right out so we can watch this at the end, so people on DM1 can watch this. Alright, let's blow her up. Blow her up! Where is my... 9:56. Alright, let's try again. And yeah, well-behaved women never make history. So I have to feel a little bit, trashing, crass, and all that. And you little boy here, you're just, you don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh, she's badass.
God, it's gonna make me not look so good. Well, I really do believe that women should dress the way they want in it's self-expression, but you don't like to be objectified. Education puts us down. Sometimes we don't want to dress sexy because we want other people to feel sexy because we're feeling sexy and we want to show up. I don't care what the hell I think. Well, you know what? That's their problem. If guys just want to be attracted because a woman's outfit, then that's a really sick, narrow-minded, self-centered piece of bullshit. I'm not going to tolerate that kind of man coming on to me. No, I'm all about my status because that's what the fantasy is. It's about your status.
Oh, wow, Amanda. You're just all about you. It's female empowerment in the Granite State. Alright, folks, we are wrapping. The show flew by like crazy here. Thank you for watching, streaming, consuming.
Have you, and we'll be back probably sometime in the future next week. You know, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fire me? I've lived a pretty fruitful life here. I mean, I've already been on my borrowed time. I've already done enough for my part of the world. Alright, thank you, Digital One. Bye-bye. They just cut me off. I think they played the whole Amanda cut, so that's what I've been told through my IFB here. Alrighty, coming up next is the Love and Relationships Hour. Coming up on the exclusive, we're going to be posting this tomorrow. I'm going to react to a clip from Moon, this YouTuber that is not from around here, not from the United States, that is very traditional conservative and like to blame everything on liberalism. And not that the conservatives do anything, weird. They're perfect. Their dicks they're superior than everyone else's. Even though I think they have tiny dick energy. So I will be coming up on an exclusive or extra, or whatever the hell I'm going to call it. I'm creating these up. Also, programming, no, the Purple Pill will be part of the Weekly Zoo. Apparently, this is not a original name as I thought it was. So I thought, because I wanted to keep it in the theme of the Weekly Zoo, it will be integrated as a separate feature, probably on the Love and Relationships Hour. We run about a half hour on average on these the first 3 episodes, so we'll just keep it as such. I'm hoping this gets more attention. Please share the Purple Pill if you like to, and also the episode 3. That podcast is not up on our site, but it's on YouTube. So,
but if you go on the podcast portion, we have extra audio, so just please check that out. Before we move further, let's go to the intro.
Humiliation.
Oh. Personally, I prefer discipline. Discipline, right on. Discipline.
But what side is Steven on? Got to wait. It's the Love and Relationships Hour.
And this part of LNR is brought to you from Clickford 312 Media, which is a production house where we provide small media production services. Visit the host website at clickfo.me. Our separate program, our separate content is on that platform. We are kind of a managed service provider, but not in the complete sense. We kind of got out of that business a while back. All right, we are going to segue from the zoo into LNR. Hopefully in a couple weeks tops, we will have our dial-in phone number. It's just unfortunately due to life getting in the way, and we're doing our data center rebuild. Our phones are not working just yet, but that's something we are going to be doing soon. All right. All right, so we got to the purple pill. Let's talk about Father's Day, because this episode is we do our annual love to Alanis Morissette. She's such a damn good MILF, which is kind of freaky to say and creepy even for me to admit it, because my mother had me very young, so any exers that have the hots for it, they're closer to my mother's age, and you know what I mean, you have the hots for your mom, right? Your mother, to be more appropriate here on our standards here. And so she on her YouTube, where all her music videos are in, she did do a video featuring Dr. Ramani. Now, I have not mentioned Dr. Ramani by name on this platform. She is the expert on narcissistic abuse. I kind of, it's not that I disrespect her or anything. I do have differing opinions of her approach to narcissism, especially there's two sides to every story, and I think she's, like, no narcissism. If you have narcissism, you should be written off. I don't think that's a good approach, but particularly the ones where she, in recent months, talked about failure to launch, and the vulnerable narcissist, or the sullen. It's almost like she's on like a script on every podcast. And if you follow Dr. Ramani, you kind of get that. So anyhow, but it was really cool. Alanis has not aged a bit. I don't know. I've always loved Alanis. It is, but, You Ought to Know was not, I'm want to play this out here. I'm going to try to see if this is going to play out. Let me just test out the ad.
Thinking I'm going to start cutting carbs.
No,
I need to drop my
bill. Not play out. Ooh. I plugged it in as a headphone jack. See if that works. Oh, I didn't hear it. Alright. So we'll get to that in a moment. Alright. Sometimes just a little replugging fixes the problem. Alright. Oh, by the way, I don't think I've showed this to you because I bought this. I'll show it to you. I got a new iPod dock, USB-C. I'm just slowly getting up in the times here. So, right. So I want to talk about my father. Since why do I play You Ought to Know on Father's Day? Part of it is that my father has been a deadbeat dad emotionally. To summarize this, and I said this multiple times in other episodes, my father denied he created me until after I was born. Then he fought for the rights for the grandparents to see me. Okay, how many people that you know where a father would fight for custody rights for only the parents? Is that like a humble brag, as the kids would say it these days? My father, he did that with me, and then he never gave up any. He didn't surrender the rights either. So, is it because his new wife that he was apparently screwing? I mean, between my mother and her, maybe, I don't know. Is planted shit. I don't know. But what really made me sick, and I probably said this before. Forgive me if I didn't. My cousin, who alright, the story goes was in 2019. She saw me at the American Eagle down the road from where I live, the outdoor mall as I call it, and she saw me through Facebook. So that's how she approached me. She knew who I was through Facebook. That's how we met, and we only were in communication for about a year. COVID kind of really made me lose a lot of respect for the family. But on Father's Day, this is one reason why as much as I could come off toxic, blocking people in my life, it turned out that this is something I don't regret. Because while I did unblock her Facebook and just looked into it, what shocked me was that she was celebrating all the dads in her life and all the fathers in her life. And my father was tagged. My biological father was tagged. There are more girls than boys in the family, and from what I could tell, the female members of the family, that is my cousins and even the half-sibs, have more respect from the father than they are with the boys. So that says a lot. This alpha man, this alpha dude, could not even be bothered to take the responsibility as what an alpha man should be, the provider and the protector. Okay? He wouldn't even have the balls to help my mother out when the officer mentioned that I was autistic, that maybe you should pay until my 21st birthday, right? That's when I would... My high school graduation was literally on March 12th, 2008, and by law, when you graduate, your transcripts have to be written right up at last minute. So for me, it was February vacation, mass February vacation of that year, right? So literally, I graduated on my 21st, and I could have gotten 2.5 more, or actually, excuse me, 3 more. Well, 2.5 if count June, right? Is normal, right? Or whatever. Less than 2 years. Duh, he didn't want to be bothered with it. Pussy. And so, yeah, I felt I was cheated. I felt betrayed. I will never forgive him. He's gonna bury me, or I can piss on his grave, if he's got a grave. Because, they're part Japanese, they have a different culture. And I know that for a fact because one of the other members wanted to be cremated and be put into the Pacific. That's what that individual, that particular money wants. You can do the math. Alright, let's cue up Alanis. I'll sing the main. This will probably get content ID. I don't fucking care. Let Alanis. I don't make money on Google AdSense, so if Alanis and a label wants residuals, go ahead. That's her right. They're right. I just like to play this on an annual basis. Because this guy cheated on me too. Deadbeat. Dad, I want to spray my seed. He's not even that taller than me. He's such a pussy. up louder, please.
Want you to know that I'm happy for you. I wish nothing but the best for you both. I know the version of me. Is she perverted like me? Would she go down on you in a theater? Does she speak eloquently? And would she have your baby? I'm sure she'd make a really excellent mother. 'Cause the love that you gave every day was a heavy for the boat. Yeah, for you to be open wide. No. And every time you speak her name, just know you told me till you die, till you die. But you're still alive, and I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear that you gave to me. I don't know. You seem very well. Things look peaceful. I'm not quite as well. I thought you should know. Did you forget about me, Mr. Duplicity? I hate to bug you in the middle of dinner. There was a slap in the face, how quickly I was in your face. And I think every week when you fuck her. And every time you speak her name, till you die, but if you're still alive and I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear you gave to me. Yo, I don't know.
And it's crazy because 4 years ago is when I discovered I put the 2 and 2. He denied my existence. It's kind of ironic that Alanis interviewed Dr. Ramani, like, approaching one of the things obviously my father. I think it's safe to say it's an art to some extent. I'm going to say malignant. But he's a sadistic son of a bitch. I know, it's black, to be honest. Because I don't think it made it later to the study. I'm not gonna fade it. I'm not gonna face. And you know it. And every time I scratch my nails on someone else's back, I hope you feel it. Can you feel it? I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear you gave to me. Yo, I don't know if I'm here to remind you of the mess you left when you went away. It's not fair to deny me of the cross I bear you gave to me. Yo, I don't know. I hope I screech enough for you. God, I love her so much. Ugh, I just scratched my voice for God's sakes. All right. Can I stop? Thank you. Alrighty. That gets you jolted up in the morning here. All right. Let's go to Mini Cat. I'm just gonna keep going on here. We have relationships and love questions we tend to do here on the zoo. I know I'm really craving to do that. All right, let's do a reaction to Mini Cat here. I can do that right now.
Desirable female traits?
Your symmetrical features tell me there's a good statistical chance you don't have a tapeworm.
When you walked into the room, I could tell you were ovulating by your gait.
At this time of the month, my scent receptors are enhanced. I can smell your genetic profile. It's compatible with mine.
And your waist-to-hip ratio is within the range of 0.7 for childbearing, so I know your offspring will likely reach full term. But if we were to do the deed tonight, what is the statistical probability that the resulting child would be mine? Using Bayes' theorem.
Sorry, I'm not naturally gifted in STEM.
Well, that's okay. I have very large balls, which means I have a force powerful enough to douche your room into oblivion. Also, I can use my tongue beforehand to see if I can taste the genes of a rival mate.
How would you know what that tastes like?
Don't you worry about that.
This all sounds like BS, but I have an agreeable nature, so I'll nod along. What tax bracket are you in?
Basic rate.
You see, feminism forced me to graduate with a master's and now I earn more than you, so I'm gonna go find a mate now with dark triad traits to f*** my problems away, but if you're free to cuckold a child later...
God damn it, I am so nostalgic for the Pleistocene!
Those are all real theories of human sexual selection from evolutionary psychology. Welcome to the Mooncat channel, where you follow me down whatever internet rabbit hole I've been falling down recently, and we slowly go insane together. My research process for this video went a little bit like this.
This paper's goofy.
By implying there's a natural order to humanity, it serves as a purpose to retain the status quo, benefiting only those who already benefit from it. Evolutionary psychology is kind of stuck in the essentialist scientific era, but the more we learn about ourselves, the more we realise we don't have an essence. Perhaps humankind has actually evolved as a programmatic monolith and every person is a synapse within the social tapestry, just contributing threads of knowledge like droplets in an entropic ocean of reasoning, which will evaporate into the cosmos, and only then will we reach the singularity. So, do you want to join me on this journey? Ooh, nice. Good pour on that one.
Since the caveman days,
hundreds of thousands of years ago,
very difficult for women to overcome hypergamous instinct.
You are biologically wired to be deathly afraid of talking to girls. Social hierarchy.
alpha male caveman,
Pulling his ejaculate up to the surface. That's built in at a fundamental level. To the zenith level of orgasm.
dating. She can have my baby. What girl calls female choice.
Cryptic female choice.
We all know a guy who has spent a lot of...
Alright, we're going to take a quick break here on the love and relationships. Alright, if you are struggling in relationship, you might be autistic, you might be, just trying to get someone to like you, and you're dealing with all this crap. This is kind of the same place for that. Alright, we're going to come back. Cat, it's a 3-hour video, 3 hour 21:23. It's a really lengthy video. We're not going to do that all today, obviously, but we'll react to bits, because I watched this twice, so 6 hours of my life that I don't regret getting back, because it was pretty damn good. Coming up next. Alright, welcome back to the zoo. We're just not really a reactionary video, but just Muni Cat's video essay on Evo Psych, which is just another junk science in the red pill.
Cryptic female choice.
We all know a guy who has spent a lot of time online and seems to have biological, scientific backing for all their opinions, all of which happen to be centered around Eurocentric beauty standards, 1950s gender roles, and the economic status quo. And then as soon as you try and challenge them or criticize them, all of a sudden you're in your
feelings, you're virtue signaling, you're trying to be politically correct, but they're just looking at the facts, bro.
People seeing culture moving away from a supposed ideal will use varied mechanisms to stop that change. First, they might use the law to restrict the freedom of people moving away from this sort of norm, but once this technique has been vanquished by the progressives, conservatives may turn to more psychological manipulation, basically gaslighting the public into believing things have always been this way for a reason. And the final result of this psychological manipulation is the misleading use of science. Evolutionary psychology is the perfect tool for this. Social hierarchies exist, but it's okay because your rung on the societal ladder was determined by your genes. There's nothing you can do about it. So accept it. Science itself is in a crisis. It's being mistaken for logic and reason, and academics are in a pit of misleading studies, unreplicated studies, publication bias, manipulated data, and outright fraud carried out by their own peers, and they're scrambling around trying to figure out how to fix it. And meanwhile, it's being communicated to a public who don't know how to engage with it critically. And this mess is being taken advantage of. Political pundits will use small, convenient sections of it as a weapon of truth, and others will use sections of it as a misleading marketing tactic to sell supplements and books. It has never been so lucrative to be a science-backed nutritionist or neuroscientist influencer.
Oh, she takes a
Evolutionary
stab
psychology is
against
just one
the
of
diary of
tools
his
that these
CEO
people
and
will use
Chrissy
to
Williamson.
convince you, to fool you, because it sounds plausible. Why not use Evo Psych logic to train people in everyday public speaking skills?
And when we can't see someone's hands, something interesting happens. You should start to feel just a little bit uncomfortable. And the reason for that is because when you can't see my hands, you wonder, what is she doing back there? Because if we were approached by a stranger caveman, the first place we looked was the hands to see if they were carrying a rock or a spear. In other words, we wanted to know if they were safe, if they were friend or foe. Now, this actually still remains from caveman days.
Oh, right, because without that story about cavemen, I never would have realised that it was weird to do public speaking with your hands behind your back. That's what I've been doing wrong the entire time. Wow, thanks, cavemen.
Now, this is actually a good thing. As humans, this keeps us safe. Dr. Paul Ekman has studies
God, no, he's haunting me. No! Why not use evolutionary psychology to train your dog?
You know, you're a caveman back in the caveman days. You think cavemen were hanging out, worrying about clickers? No, they just get their dogs down and they start to grab them and wrestle them. Pretend they were fighting bears and stuff.
Come on. If you got decapitated by a rival tribe, you know your dog would have been first in the queue to hump your severed head. You can use evolutionary psychology to scam people into buying your course on how to be an alpha male.
You'll have access to the sub-knowledge that your mind has, and instead of having to overthink it, and instead of being dragged around by your emotions, you're going to make decisions and speak from presence. Really what we're accessing here, in my opinion, is what a caveman would have accessed with hunting down a fucking woolly mammoth.
Fucking do! Or if you've ever cursed your irises with naked attraction, a British dating show in which participants do dating but backwards and are subjected to the genitals of their prospective mate, then their torso before revealing their personality. Rounds are interspersed with what the latest studies have told us about what humans find attractive, because we can't make up our own minds. No, science will tell us what we like.
Women are dumb.
Kieran's among the 81% of men who crave a curvy figure. And women with this ideal waist-to-hip ratio are found to have a lower risk of disease, be more likely to conceive, and even bear more intelligent offspring.
Thick lives save lives.
A dating show because he wanted to see your genitals before he saw your face. Perhaps neither of you are giving yourselves the best chances of conceiving a child who will join Mensa.
Anthropologist Helen Fisher studies how our bodies and brains have evolved so that boy
Science
meets
is
girl.
a
They find
YouTube
that
channel
men
she's
react differently to
referencing.
women. Men are turned on visually. For women, the ideal mate is more than just a source of fertile sperm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I get
well,
that.
What if all I want is a source of fertile
But
sperm
should
that
it
I
be
don't ever have to
entirely
speak to,
that?
ever? Never underestimate the wants and desires of a woman in her ape era.
She seeks the more intangible characteristics, such as reliability, loyalty, kindness, that suggest a good husband and a good father for her children.
I'm not looking for a father. I'm looking for daddy.
You called?
Shut up.
She needed to remember what he did last Valentine's Day, what he promised last Christmas, what he didn't do last summer. She needed to remember to see if he was going to be a good husband and a good father. That's what women do all the time. We get on the telephone and talk to other women, constantly recounting what he did and didn't do.
Yeah, he just tried talking to me.
Women are particularly interested in the men's character, and that they build up a memory map of their behavior in order to determine if they will be a suitable mate and father to their children.
What do you want for dinner? I bought us some pizzas from Sainsbury's earlier, and I got us some beer. I also fed the cat.
Okay, Fred, time to find our perfect...
Damn you commercials.
Are you okay?
As a boy reaches puberty, testosterone secreted by the testes promotes the growth of particular masculine features.
Yeah, I'd probably be making a face like that as well if puberty was causing me to be haunted by my own gigantic sperm. Over on the most cursed corner of the internet, YouTube, EvoPsych is most commonly used in the context of giving dating advice, most of the time to men. It can be used to explain why you like big butts so much. It's because you're thinking about your potentially sexy daughters.
Studies show that women with lower waist-to-hip ratio are more likely to bear daughters who would also develop low waist-to-hip ratio, thus making it a heritable trait.
You will like big butts, and you will not lie. You other brothers can't deny.
The reason for this type of sexual preference has to do with bearing children. Specifically, women with wider hips are supposed to bear children with more ease.
When a girl walks in with an itty-bitty waist and a round thing in your face.
Further, females with 45-degree curvature would have had the advantage in foraging during pregnancy, as such body type would prevent them from spinal injuries.
Cool! Someone should tell the 90s, the 60s, and the 20s. Somebody should also tell the era of tuberculosis chic in the 1800s. I'm not sure those women were attempting to depict fertility. Oh, and could somebody go back 30,000 years and tell the makers of the Venus of Willendorf that the artifact they're making actually doesn't conform to 21st century beauty standards? Yeah, it's amazing and everything, but would the guy who made this YouTube video about arses stick his cock in it? I don't know, just use it to dunk on women on your alpha male podcast with facts and logic about why it's okay for men to cheat on them, actually.
Men, we're biologically hardwired for it to not be that serious. Like for men, sex is like taking a piss. I hate to say it like that. So, huh?
The science behind that?
Because clearly, the men watching these podcasts have girlfriends and always have multiple chances to cheat on them.
It's like for survival reasons, it's like just hardwired naturally in our DNA that's what we want.
But don't worry, if it's the other way round and your girlfriend cheated on you, then there's evolutionary explanations for that too.
That is, they're trying to get investment from one guy, like the good dads, but good genes from another guy.
If a man's attached, here's what happens. She'll twist the knife and pull away or try and purposefully hurt you because it proves her hypergamy right that you're now weak for her.
God.
When you see a woman lose respect and desire for a man, all morals, all normal human behavior goes completely out the window. The primal instinct kicks in and she's just like, oh, weak man, do not want his genes, do not want him to procreate, do not want him to carry on, goodbye.
Men will literally fill an entire 120 by 90 whiteboard with armchair evolutionary psychology instead of going to therapy.
She could be the smartest woman in the
Because
planet.
it's too
And then when
feminine.
she's going to make a sexual decision, it's a chimpanzee that takes over, its primal brain, and it's just like flinging poo and throwing her vagina out there. Like, it's just, it doesn't have it. It's like, you know, and then
Paging the
like, they're like, "What
FCC."
happened? I don't even know what I'm doing, right? That's most women. So that person, her opinion of you is garbage, you know?
I dunno, Paul semicolon apex mindset. I'm sorry that happened to you, but maybe her prefrontal cortex was active, and maybe she wasn't some kind of shaved ape woman, and she just didn't like you that much. Try jerking off instead of recording a podcast next time. We even use the
we
elusive
want them to
caveman
be
lifestyle
jerking
to
off.
legitimize
Come
fad
on.
diets.
Many of the foods we're eating today, our bodies really aren't genetically designed to eat.
We evolved to eat lots and lots of meat.
Primal! Primal! We only eat primal!
Nutrition is out of the scope of this video, but just for posterity, this is all bullshit too.
I've done steroids.
Much of this is people falling victim to naturalistic fallacy. A tendency to believe anything deemed natural is good, but what natural
Like a
even means
white
can really be
curse.
called into question. I mean,
Puberty for the
a banana
girls.
looks nothing like it did before we started cloning them, and I mean, I don't know, I quite like having shelter and a computer and healthcare, but cyanide isn't great. Well, let's rewind the clock a bit and figure out where this all started. 164 years ago, the Father Christmas of evolution, Charlie Darwin, produced his seminal work. I always think that sounds a little bit like a euphemism for jizzing. On the origin of species. It cast a new light on the way we view humankind, not as this divine creation summoned into existence by some intangible, mysterious deity, but as a product of millions and millions of years of random genetic mutations naturally selected to develop beings suited, like perhaps imperfectly, but in a sort of equilibrium to their environments. It wasn't this bearded white guy from the Bible saying, make the most perfect animal that ever existed. Now put tiny knives in its hands and have it find joy in bringing twitching, half-deceased rodents inside. People realised evolution was actually just Mother Nature being a messy bitch and throwing gene spaghetti at the wall and seeing what would stick.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hockley from Sandy Hook.
Penis snake! And this was a pretty mind-blowing revelation for a lot of people, especially the ones who really liked the God Dude. They really wanted to believe, for some reason, that the God Dude that they pray to every night was the same guy who thought up this penis snake. But in the world of evolutionary psychologists, in a way, the belief in a deity has sort of returned, but not in the form of a god, but rather an almost godlike perspective of Darwinian evolution, which I, in part, blame Richard Dawkins for.
That thing in her mind that's always looking for the alpha, it can't ever turn off. It's an evolution. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is primary for her genetics. If you guys ever read The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins, it is primary for her genetics, her genes to pass themselves along.
It's a weird sort of one step up from creationism, this belief that our brains developed alongside the rest of our bodies in this sort of perfect utilitarian manner, which allows us to pass our genes to the next generation in the most efficient way imaginable. Like we're all driverless meatbags programmed by our gonads, and there's this little guy in there at the controls just dictating our every move, like, don't date that guy, he's low value, how will he support my eggs, don't date her waist to hip ratio is 3 percentage points out, this means she won't be able to cultivate the genes in my spermatozoa to the optimum efficiency. Evolutionary psychology bases its assumptions on the theory that our base traits were established in what is called the EEA. Yes, the European Economic Area. I am joking, you idiot! The EEA in this context is the environment of evolutionary adaptedness, the Pleistocene savanna, which conveniently happened too long ago for any of us to really know what went on. No one was on their phones, everyone was living in the moment, so we happily project current gender norms onto it. Time for a moon history lesson. So, Quite a long time ago, all the countries in the world were in one big blob, and all the dinosaurs lived together on it in perfect harmony. Until one day, the Ferragosaurus Rex came along with a pint and started talking about certain groups of dinosaurs as if they weren't as good as the other ones, and this made them get all mad at each other, and then they voted for Pangexit. Pangexit created loads of separate continents, including one that they called Africa, named after a hairstyle that hadn't been invented yet. And this is where humans first appeared a few million years ago. Once they'd started living in caves and do this AI-generated lion orgy on the wall, they all had a meeting and agreed that they'd peaked and they should stop evolving there and then, so that future evolutionary psychologists could call this the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness to make their jobs a lot easier to do. The hypotheses that evolutionary psychologists formulate tend to reveal more about the person doing the hypothesizing than about actual humanity. Most evolutionary psychologists hide behind their Google Scholar pages, racking up citations in a perpetual circle jerk with other evolutionary psychologists, but some professors just love the spotlight. Meet Jeffrey Miller. He'll appear in your documentary leaning up against his F-150, exhibiting his accumulated resources with a lady. Jeffrey appears a relatively unique...
Hey, hold on, stop there. That's not an F-150, that's an Explorer. Complete deaf. Maybe it's an F-150 in England because they make different wheels, but let's get the facts straight.
Spoken man in interviews, which is not what you expect when your first exposure to his viewpoints is via his Twitter feed, on which he goes by the name @PrimalPolly, which just conjures up images of a Neanderthal Zeus surrounded by ovulating cave women lining up for a drop of his prime genetic material.
The funny thing about sexual selection is it's a very powerful evolutionary process, but it's not blind, dumb natural selection. It's driven by our tastes, our pleasure.
Hundreds of thousands of years ago, humans started selecting partners who were more intelligent. As a result, intelligence began to grow in our species.
He spends what seems to be most of his waking hours on Twitter.com just pissing out the hottest takes. He thinks that contraception is the root of all evil, and everyone trying to eradicate ableism, eugenics, and racism from science is a woke ideologue, and he thinks there should be a YouTube channel that teaches feminine beauty tips to young men, not in the name of diversity and challenging fashion norms, no, but actually so when a man goes on a date with a woman, he can judge how long she took to get ready for the date. Then he can know whether the look is smart and classy or not. Jeffrey seems to think he's the originator of the manosphere, since he was the one talking about the hypergamous nature of women 20 years ago, and he hated women before it was cool, but says it's since run amok with his ideas. He thinks that the red pill is now in its rebellious teenage years, just tacking on extra beliefs like semen retention and making women the enemy.
It was strange to see like second and third hand ideas from like my early work getting kind of recycled into manosphere, like wisdom or good advice were often bad advice, and then get into arguments with manosphere guys who are like, Miller, you don't understand human sexual dynamics at all. And
this is my fucking work.
But you see, lovely meek Jeffrey believes that men should follow their natural, evolved desires, but in a way that respects women. Aw, thanks, Jeffrey.
Getting in touch with your sexuality, your sexual desires, the ways that you view women, trying to make those both consistent with your evolved desires, but also kind of find your ethical path.
I don't know, Jeffrey, why don't you allow your eyes to live consistency with their evolved desires? Why do they have that woke glass over them, distorting their realistic view of the world? Take your glasses off, Jeffrey! He serves as a middleman for incels who think they're too intelligent for the Fresh and Fit or whatever podcast on which there once lived an era of unassuming and sometimes drunk and or underage women being coerced on to be manipulated into giving answers for cathartic takedowns by a host. But this has since morphed into women being fully aware of the scheme, being paid a guest fee, and then making even more money on top of that from the OF signs up, while the milquetoast host is too dumb to realise it's a bit and looks like he probably refuses to stand up at the end of the interview.
you and I'm sorry, lay you until, you know, like you're like, oh my God, I have no more inside my body anymore.
But with Jeffrey, we've got a sort of, oh, poor women. They can't help being hypergamous, manipulative cheaters, disgusted by the idea of having sex with you. It's just in their genes. He's also a big fan of the peacock's tail, which you'll find is a bit of a common boo within the Evocyte community, because, of course, that's the most grandiose display of sexual selection adaptation for the choosy females. His wife even wore them in her...
Oh, that's crazy. Alright, let's jump, because we could react to this entirely, but I want to get down to oh, this is gonna be funny. David Buss's TEDx actually makes a
Old Spice Gentleman Super Hydration Body Wash.
mystery to evolutionary psychologists is the elusive female orgasm.
Female orgasm has been a mystery that psychologists have been attempting to understand for decades.
And I have done studies with vibrators and so on indicating that, you know, some of the other great apes do seem to have contractions.
Why is it necessary to have an orgasm? Why would selection have favored having an orgasm sometimes and not others? Why does it happen so infrequently?
In an attempt to give the female orgasm meaning, in this study, Miller and friends hypothesized that women who are unable to orgasm with partners must be less likely to pair bond with their partners, but they just found that to not be true. They also drew up multiple other hypotheses, like seeing if women successfully orgasm more with men of high status, men who earn more, masculine men, liberal men, men high in extroversion, neuroticism, psychoticism, or impulsiveness, and they all failed. Maybe you should have included a variable in here, which was men who ask women what she likes in bed and listen to her. Maybe that could have given some clues. Oh yeah, baby, give me that dark triad dick. Why aren't we questioning why the male orgasm evolved? Why should men find sex pleasurable? Why don't they just sneeze out the semen? Men are the ones who are supposed to...
Remember, sex is taking a piss.
After all, they don't need any biological incentives. So, if anything, the women do, if they're the ones needing to be convinced to have sex all the time. So, like, why didn't men simply evolve a completely arousal-free crank?
Oh, this is gonna make me sick. But let's go to the other one with the TEDx talk.
Point. Here we have a TED talk from Dr. Bussy. Oh, I'm sorry, a TEDx talk. It's a 17-minute presentation of everything wrong with the field of evolutionary psychology and why people don't care.
So I'd like you to imagine someone of the opposite sex walking up to you on the street and say, "Hi, I've been noticing you around lately. I find you very attractive." And they ask you one of three questions. Would you go out on a date with me?
Logic!
Would you come back
Logic!
To
I'm
me?
just gotta go to my
Would you have
algorithm!
sex with me? Hi, I've been noticing you around. I find you very attractive. Would you have sex with me? So these are actual empirical studies. These are the results of that study. Of the women approached by the male, 56% agreed to go out on the date with the guy. 6% agreed to go back to his apartment. 0% agreed to have sex with him. Of the men approached by the female of the experimenter team, about 50% agreed to go out on a date with her. 69% agreed to go back to her apartment. And 75% agreed to have sex with her.
Unsurprisingly, the outcome is different for men and women, not to mention of cultural shame, risk of violence, risk of pregnancy mentioned as contributing factors. No, simply a male desire for sexual variety and female sexual pickiness. Keep in mind, this study was published 34 years ago, but is based on when the experiments were actually done in 1978 and 1982. So 42 and 46 years ago, when cultural expectations surrounding sexual activity, the study calls it genital union, were even stronger than they are now.
Let's follow up on Chrissy and the other Steven.
Lie about coffee. On anthropology, I've been listening to podcasts. There's a new lucrative sales funnel in town. If you want to sell a book, supplements, or a political ideology, there's no better way of doing it than hiding it in the format of a self-help podcast, reeling in clicks from innocent people just trying to improve their lives. These podcasts are, in my opinion, no better than clicking on a spam ad on a porn site that says you must find out this one weird trick to lose belly fat and doctors hate her. The point is to invite an academic or expert of some kind on and not engage with them critically in any way. Just let them speak. Let them plug their bullshit book or their bullshit supplements, smile and nod, pretend you're taking notes, even if they're completely contradicting what another guest told you on your same podcast.
Caffeine, it is the original cognitive enhancer. We see consistently people perform better.
You see a reduction in all-cause mortality that correlates to coffee consumption. Is it good for cognitive decline? Yes,
I am actually an advocate of drinking coffee. It allows us to function better. It allows us to work harder, longer.
People who regularly drink coffee seem to be protected against cardiovascular disease and even neurologic conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and MS.
All the studies are now showing
What about autism?
You will have less heart disease and you'll live longer if you drink coffee.
Do you think there's correlation or a link between caffeine a shrinking brain?
Yeah.
You get views from a clickbait title, they get to sell a book or supplements that haven't gone through proper clinical trials. Everybody wins. Well, apart from your listeners. If you want to be the grifter, take a load of well-established, mind-numbing, obvious health and lifestyle tips. Sleep well, eat healthily, etc., etc. Boring! But then add one secret tip that the doctors won't tell you. In fact,
writing all caps on your title.
Weird tip, maybe they're lying to you. Be aware that a lot of people won't stick around for the whole podcast, so maybe start with your
I thought they wanted to listen. Wait. I thought they wanted to listen. Wait. I thought people wanted to listen to long-form stuff, like, whatever. I don't know. Continue.
Plausible as well, like your fucking sugar spike tablets. Hey, perhaps there's more of these weird tips on this person's own podcast or in their book, or maybe the weird tip is their supplements. I know so much about grifting at this point. I could enact so many fucking 4D chess moves on you guys. You'd be signed up to a crypto rug pull, holding worthless moon NFTs and living off moon pills, and speed reading my 69 Rules for Life moon Bible while you sleep each night before you could say, why the fuck am I signed up to 89 monthly subscriptions? Do you know how many Lamborghinis I could have right now? Yeah, that's how I flex. I anti-flex. I tell you how much I don't have, because I like you guys too much. Join my Patreon. In fact, studies have shown that early hominids who signed up to the Mooncat Patreon...
Alright, Brady, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll wrap up LNR. It took us a very long time to, I may want to actually go to Patreon. She's got some interesting stuff, because she does music stuff, so I might, and I'm not a good audio engineer, so I might actually... Alright, we're gonna take a break. Sorry about that. I've tried to do my Patreon, but no one really gives a flying fuck about my content, which is hard to get guys that aren't, yeah. We're gonna take a break. It's the Weekly News LNR Hour.
talk for a second about bias in evolutionary
some
psychology
coffee.
and
It's
how
supposed to
it
be good for me,
fundamentally
says the red
exposes
pill.
the way that evolutionary psychologists just don't understand the way the brain works. When analysing the Google coder James Damore, Jeffrey Miller describes him as
that
kind
weirdo.
of aspy.
James Damore is kind of aspy.
An aspie. Let's give him a license to say whatever the fuck he wants.
Empathic with people of other views. He can be a bit blunt in how he says things. James Damore.
I'm a robot. I don't care about your feelings.
About sex differences.
As far as I know, he's never met Damore, but his view is that Damore's aspy, systematizing personality led him to write a memo which was purely based on facts of human evolution. He just didn't know how to present it in a way that took other people's feelings into account. He was too focused on the facts that he got from 2 Wikipedia pages. He applies this personality trait to himself too.
And I'm just aspy. So it's all easy. I mean, I'm very rational, I'm very systematizing, I seek out principled solutions to issues.
True, but you don't have to be an ass about it.
I hate inconsistency, I hate hypocrisy.
He believes his neurodivergence has logically raised him above others by removing the emotional haze through which everybody else sees the world. So, completely unemotional, systematizing Jeffrey wrote an essay called Political Peacocks, in which he starts out by observing some other students
I need to have an NBC
taking
chime
part
on my
in a
board.
sit-in to protest for the university's divestment from stocks that do business in South Africa, which at the time was enacting apartheid.
I was puzzled by the spontaneity, ardor, and near unanimity of the student demands for divestment. Why would mostly white, mostly middle-class North Americans miss classes, risk jail, and occupy a drab office building for 2 weeks in support of political freedom for poor blacks living in a country 6,000 miles away?
The students, according to Jeffrey, were more interested in meeting people with a similar ideology as themselves to mate, essentially using the sit-in as a speed dating event. Political peacocking. He offers evidence that everyone he knew was dating someone from the sit-in. Ah yes, Jeffrey, always laser focused on the facts. Are you systematizing here, Jeffrey, or did you just not care about black people 6,000 miles away? Jeffrey's so laser focused on the facts that he can immediately tell when someone's virtue signaling on Twitter. He even wrote a book on it. Of course, it's only happening when someone disagrees with Jeffrey's political views.
Of course!
Funny that. Well, I guess you're the expert.
I say, people trying to ban guns who don't know anything at all about guns won't be persuasive to people who do know about guns. No constructive dialogue is possible when one side is proudly ignorant, arrogantly patronizing, and high on its own virtue signaling. Why are you supporting woke gender ideology? What does any of this have to do with car insurance? Have you really thought through the implications of letting your Gen Z interns dictate your company's virtue signaling? Anti-wokeness is opposition to pretentious hegemonic elites maintaining their deeply unequal power through pseudo-egalitarian virtue signaling. I don't have gender pronouns in my Twitter bio. You do. So who cares more about pronouns? The person who's simply not using them, or the person who's virtue signaling with them? You'd sacrifice relations with your own flesh and blood just because they don't share your passion for some trendy political virtue signaling. Sad. Short-sighted and sad.
I don't know.
But
Seems quite
they all do the
emotional
same
to
shit
me,
too?
Jeffrey. Trans people don't come under Diana Fleischman's constructed view of reality, so she creates just so stories to explain them away. She thinks that young people just can't accept the fact that people like her are able to explain them, and it just goes against their ideology, so they decide they're going to opt out completely.
I think that some people choose an identity based on their ideology. So I think that there are many people who think that sex differences research is fascistic or oppressive or biologically determinist, and they choose to identify as gender nonconforming or non-binary in the service of that goal.
People don't want to be put in a category. They don't want to actually, they have problems with all the measures that you give them. They don't like
to say that they do things one way or another, that they feel one way consistently or another way. Because I think fundamentally, right now, as psychology progresses, you're going to see more and more that people are trying to avoid and fight against being understood. And I think that's part of the rise of the whole, non-binary thing.
So many people who are non-binary are doing it for sort of moral or culture reasons. They want to make it seem more normal to not think about or to not bin people as male or female.
Yes.
So that's maybe that's a problem that you think is important, that people don't stereotype on the basis of sex, and that's one reason that you've become non-binary, is because you want to take that on as an identity.
And yes, you could say, but you're utilizing bias when you come to your variance for group fitness theory. And yes, I do concede that you could be correct, but I also don't have to concoct 29 conflicting just so stories to come to my conclusion. There's no paradoxes I have to resolve. There's just one biological narrative, and I have growing scientific consensus on my side. But sure, my bias is involved, and you can decide on whether you fully or partially agree or totally disagree. I ain't your brain parasite. I'm not gonna implant myself inside you and make you crawl to the top of a piece of grass and get eaten. Maybe. But we struggle doing this. We all do. The brain doesn't tend to do a good job of analysing itself, and the reason for that is the very universal mechanism that makes our brains so adaptive. Bias. Emotions are logic, and science is not truth. Despite what Ben Shapiro may tell you about feelings and what Huberman might tell you about science between texting his 5 girlfriends, nobody is fully logical in the way that they think. That would be impossible. Consider a game of chess. With every move taken, the possible outcomes to that move could be, say, 10. It's whiteboard time again.
Alright, we're gonna just cut her here.
So when you're playing chess, you're considering the outcomes of the move that you're...
Yes, there's a lot of logic, but there's a thing called reality, and sometimes shit happens. Alright, there's much more in this mini-cat. She also debunked the manosphere a couple years ago. She broke the interwebs. I think it was 2 years ago I discovered that one. I watched that one like a Disney movie too. Alright, well that is the wrap for LNR. Again, a reminder, the Purple Pill will be part of the Weekly Zoo going forward. After the next episode will be part of the Weekly Zoo. We'll have that, and we'll have a conversation and stuff like that. If you want to reach out to me, my social media is at the Weekly Zoo on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook as well, and the email's at theweeklyzoo at clickfo.me. It is getting a wrap here. Hold on. I normally haven't bumped out in a while here. Let's see if I can bump out. Alright, I can't bump out. Alright, that's fine. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time, we'll see you in another video, another stream, whatever, another show, whatever. Can't even talk. Have a great one. Bye.